This is the 21:55 hours GMT edition, part B of the Khoodeelaar television channel, broadcasting under the banner of Baby Angel Geronimo editions. Baby Angel Geronimo can be seen on the top right of the screen as you are looking at the screen. Baby Angel Geronimo is the world's bestest baby angel Geronimo. And baby angel Geronimo defines all that is best and unique and the most universal values of justice, fairness, accountability, ethics, compassion, morality, kindness. Baby angel Geronimo also is a witness, along with the two witnesses appointed by God, witnessing the evilness personified by the evil, depraved Boris Johnson, the evilness called Christian Middlemass, the evilness called George Injustice Eustace, the evilness that has been backing by abusing the judicial process in the United Kingdom, the evilness, the three High Court judges that served as the rubber stamps for the evil DEFRA. Baby Angel Geronimo is witnessing all the wrongdoings being committed by the agencies of the state, agencies of the evil state, agencies that are in control, abusing the power of the control in the various installations of power, power in contact with the ordinary population in the demography of the United Kingdom. Baby Alien Geronimo is universal symbol, witness, round the clock, witnessing the badness, the evilness, the satanic activities and behavior of the depraved individuals, the groups, and their colluders and those they are complicit with. Evilness like the evil metropolitan policeman called David Carrick. Now, David Carrick is seen in this picture on page 5 of the Times of Tuesday, the London Times of Tuesday, the 17th of January 2022, who is a shameless, criminally crass grin on his face as he holds a glass of drink, wine. So we shall be talking about that, and we shall be talking about the universality of the witness that is baby angel Geronimo. Now, this is the headline on the two-page spread on the Times of Tuesday, the 17th of January 2023. Predator in Metropolitan Police ranks who told victims they would be safe with him because he is a policeman. He was a policeman as he was committing the rapes against them. So 2 decades of rape, imprisonment, and assault. There are the highlights of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 sections, 12 paragraphs, let's say. It says Woman A 2003, Woman B 2004, Woman C 2006, Woman D 2009, Woman E 2009, Woman F 2009, Woman G 2015, Woman 14, no date given, Woman 1 2017, Woman J, Woman I 2017, Woman J 2018, Woman K 2018, Woman L 2020. Now, this two-page spread has got the main heading, of course, running across the two pages: Predator in Metropolitan Police ranks who told victims they would be safe with him. This is what the criminal Wayne Cousins must have told Sarah Everard. The murder of Sarah Everard came after police ignored warning signs. Talk of change, but failings are familiar. There is this analysis of the various expressions of regret and apology and all the rest of it. But at the center of this analysis is the truth, admission of the truth that the talk is empty, that nothing changes for the better, and nothing stops the police criminals. Addressing the litany of opportunities that were missed to stop the serial rapist David Carrick, the Metropolitan Police said it would not expect anyone with his pattern of behavior to be in police service today. Fiona Hamilton writes. Now, Fiona Hamilton is the editor, crime editor. She is the crime and security editor. So that is how she is described. Now, Helen Millichap, the Metropolitan Police Deputy Assistant Commissioner, said, "Our approach has changed significantly, and we are more confident this pattern would be identified now and that it would result in further investigation." Now, this is a completely dishonestly scripted, very carefully dishonestly scripted sentence. Our approach has changed. Changed from what date to what date? And what is being meant by approach? See, the police in Britain, as we've been saying in the previous editions, the police in Britain are praised beyond any justification supporting the praise, justification of evidence. I mean, the latest international source, person that has been praising the British rule of law has been, of course, Pakistan's Imran Khan. As we have said, Imran Khan is absolutely ill-informed, misinformed about the state of Britain and the state of British law. I say again, the words of David Neuberger, spelled Neuberger, it's a German word. David Neuberger, of Jewish background, and David Neuberger is the brother-in-law of Julia Neuberger, the Jewish rabbi, female rabbi. David Neuberger was reported in the London Evening Standard on the 4th of July 2017 by the Evening Standard's then Home Affairs editor as saying that with Brexit, which he was obviously kind of promoting at that small event, the attraction or the attractiveness of London courts would be enhanced. Why? Because the various rich litigants from various parts of the world would arrive in London to seek their vindication against their rivals and their opponents through the London courts. Now, as I said in the first part, part A today, but as I've been saying for years, this availability of opportunity through the London courts, or the availability of the London courts to act as platforms for the big litigants from across the world, is not open to ordinary people in Britain of whatever backgrounds. The main opportunities for the London courts, legal sort of platforms, the judicial platforms, are available only to those who have the highest money to hire them. So the legal experts, the legal advocates, are prostitutes, as are the judges. Because although the United Kingdom is signatory to any number of international treaties, agreements, declarations, conventions upholding the rights of ordinary people, and upholding the rights of ordinary people to have free and equal access, free that is free from interference, free and equal access to the services of the judiciary. Those are the treaties, declarations, conventions, agreements that the United Kingdom is signed up to. But the United Kingdom judges, the judiciary, show two fingers. They effectively say, fuck these treaties. We don't care. So the judges in the higher courts behave like prostitutes. Whoever pays them the highest, they are able to deliver justice for them, to suit them. So, with all the talks dominating the media coverage in the United Kingdom today, this week, and in the last 4 weeks, being about strike action by various groups of quote workers, there is no room, there has been no room for the truth that ordinary people, out of these 70 odd million people in the United Kingdom, 99% of the people are not able to even think of going to the courts because they can't afford the fees. So the judiciary is a rubber stamp for the richest. The judiciary is a rubber stamp for the crooks and the corrupt ones coming from various parts of Africa and Asia, looting those countries where they had access to the resources of the country. Pakistan is included, India is included, Bangladesh is included, but they're not the only ones. The whole of Asia, the continent, the biggest continent with the largest number of people, is a place for criminals looting their own countries. And they arrive in London as the most attractive prostitute and brothel, dressed as law, as the law courts. That is the reality. Now, this is the Khoodeelaar campaign making these world exclusive assertions. Nobody else is making these assertions. They know the facts we are uttering and reciting and referring to, but they won't say it. Because unlike our broadcasting outfit, those others are profit related, profit motivated, careeristic. We are totally, exclusively 100% non-profit. We are motivated and moved and driven by the purpose of telling the truth, only the truth, nothing but the truth. So this coverage in the media, Tuesday, 17th of January 2023, of the behavior of the metropolitan policeman, the word officer is unacceptable. Officer is an elevated word. It actually elevates the status of somebody who is being called the officer. So when they call a serial criminal, murderer, rapist, police officer, they do that irresponsibly, and they do that ignorantly, and they do that stupidly and idiotically. No criminal should be called an officer. No offender should be called an officer. I mean, this is the one of the brainwashed or brainwashing kind of symptoms of brainwashing and evidence of brainwashing in the UK mainstream media and UK ordinary discourse is they call local council employees council officers. Fuck them. Most of the local council employees are criminals, literally defined criminals. They don't deserve to be called officers, and yet they are called officers. Same with the police. Same with the murderer, Wayne Cousins, the Metropolitan Police last year, who murdered, who arrested, raped, murdered, and burned the body of Sarah Everard. I mean, you cannot get worse than that. No human being should be treated to any of what Cousins did to Sarah Everard. And yet he was still called police officer. Fuck the media. And the judges, they are only humans. The judges who when they sit as judges, they are as bad as the criminals themselves. In fact, all the judges in the United Kingdom, while sitting in the benches, is sitting on the benches, whatever, on the courts, condone, that is to say, approve of criminals. For example, there have been over 6 or 7 or 8 cases in the last 10 years where High Court and other court judges have allowed murderer females to go free. And several of those murderers and attackers and violent criminals have been allowed to go free by the judges admitting their sexual attraction to these criminals. That is on the record. And in the case of the kind of various three separate hearings and kind of actions brought by baby angel Geronimo's mom, Helen MacDonald, against the DEFRA criminals, all three of them, serially, separately, were treated as rubber stamping occasions by the judges, and they gave the rubber stamps in favor of the DEFRA criminals and depraved evilness. So when Imran Khan says there is rule of law in Britain, Imran Khan could not be more wrong on the facts. Imran Khan, although he spent, let's say, about 20 years in the UK while he was doing the course at the University of Oxford and also playing cricket, he could not have come across any real, detailed, reliable evidence of what goes on, what went on in the courts system. And he is only relying on the slogan, the propaganda line, that English law, rule of law, English law is equal to rule of law. That is not the case. There is no country in the world today, there has never been one, where the rule of law universally understood and defined and updated after the end of the so-called Second World War with the Universal of Declaration of Human Rights, with the founding of the United Nations Organization. There has been no true rule of law in practice in any country in the world. And because the brainwashing is conducted, led by the influencers of the empire, the Western countries are the ones that are still the imperialist ones because of the length of time they have been in occupation of the countries they imperially occupied. Among the powers, among the Western imperialist powers are the United Kingdom, France, some of the other Western European countries like Sweden, like Belgium, South Africa. Belgium once have had long standing stay in the southern African regions of South Africa. And their lead is still being followed, although numerically they're not as many as the people they lead and they influence. The impact of their actual imperial positions in the past are still sustained and are still surviving. It's like the nearest comparison is the judicial process and the use of the news agencies, the distribution and control of the news agenda, the interpretation of the news of every 24 hours. For example, in the world today, and it has been the same case for decades, there are about five main controlling news distributing organizations and agencies. One is the AFP, which is based in France. One is the Reuters. One is the Associated Press in the USA. And of course, the BBC. So these are the ones, although they come from numerically smaller countries compared to the countries that they actually sold to, they do the business in. These are the agencies that actually control the distribution, the dissemination of what constitutes the main news headlines. So, for example, if there is a fire or shooting in any of the countries in the West, this is given the prominence that it deserves, the death of people, etc., etc. But an event, an accident, or massacre, including 10 times the number of people who are the victims who become victims, doesn't get that kind of coverage. The latest one in the last 2 days is the air crash in Nepal. I mean, in the actual specific reference to that incident, the British media have repeatedly said that one of the victims who died in the Nepal air crash has been a British one. Can you imagine? There is no description. There is no reference to the other victims, other people who died. So extrapolate this, multiply this, and apply this to other events, brainwashing events. And you can see how misrepresented the world is by this media. Okay, so think about this. I began my encounter contacts with the kind of media 60 years ago. 55 years ago, I came into contact with what used to be called the teleprinter in the newsroom of a daily newspaper. And you could see the hearing. I mean, I would sit in the desk, behind the desk, and there would be this noise being made by the teleprinter. And the noise was being made, would be made by the teleprinter, releasing pages and pages of news in the newsprint that was on the teleprinter machine. And the news would be coming from AFP, Reuters, Associated Press. And I was based in Dhaka, what was then East Pakistan. Dhaka is not the USA, but that was the kind of influence, direct influence 55 years ago that was being exerted by the American news agency Associated Press. There was no debate. There was no communication answering back to the lies, the packs of lies. There was no queries that you could make. So what would happen? The local languages, of course, the Associated Press released by the teleprinter was, of course, part of the subscription. So if you multiply the numbers of news organizations and media organizations based in East Pakistan, West Pakistan, across India, across Sri Lanka, Nepal, whatever, and you go over to Africa and do the same thing with the local African news businesses, newspapers, whatever, you see the hundreds, literally hundreds of thousands of subscribers subscribing to, that is paying money for the teleprinter service to bring the news. Now, what kind of news could they bring to Africa from America? So those who say that the empire is finished they're completely wrong. The new empire, intellectual empire, the mental brainwashing empire is continuing. So when Imran Khan says that he is fighting for Hakiki Azadi, of course he is right to say that. But he is only tackling a very small fraction of the Hakiki Azadi movement that needs to be fought. He has to understand, as does the rest of the Tehreek-e-Insaf party and movement, have to understand what is the meaning of Azadi, not just about the freedom from the British in 1947. It has to be freedom from the BBC. It has to be freedom from the Guardian. And as we say, the manipulations of the news as against the local demography by the Guardian and the BBC, for example, is as bad. You have to be constantly vigilant in order to be free. Constant vigilance is the price of liberty and freedom. So the Guardian, for example, we have been condemning the Guardian in the Twitter posts that I have been making on the theft of 21 million pounds by the boss of a nursing home in the United Kingdom. 21 million pounds for the boss of a nursing home is an awful lot of money. 21 million pounds is an awful lot of money, and that money should never have been available, never have been free to be stolen by an executive of that company. Now, that is nursing home. Let's say that it's the same as that care home. In the United Kingdom, there is a flourishing business called care industry. And the care industry means that a business is set up which calls itself a care provider, care workers agency. So they employ or hire or contract any number of care workers. It doesn't matter whether the care workers are really trained to provide care. So there is a routine. And most of the contracts between the care providing agency and the local councils take place based on local people. That is to say, people that are very old, very ill, but are not considered suitable as residents of hospitals. So they've got a kind of secondary life, spent most of the rest of their lives in the care homes, and they're supposedly being cared for by care workers provided by care agencies that employ the care workers, and in return for the contracts with the care homes, the care agencies get paid. For example, for the total daily 24-hour cost of caring for somebody, if let's say it is £50, let's say, current prices, 21, 23 prices. If it is £50, then the care agencies charge the contracting local council 4 times, 5 times as much. So you can see that for pound, every pound that is spent by the local councils, supposedly for making sure that the most vulnerable people in need of being cared for and being provided care at the care agencies or nursing agencies, nursing homes, if they pay £1, then 80 pence of that pound is superficial. It goes to the care agencies and care workers industry. So for every £100 million, £80 million is excess payments. And there is no actual criteria on which to base the efficiency, the relevance, the dedication, and above all, the mentality, the attitude, the outlook of the supposed care workers. So you can see a cycle of contracts taking place between local councils, the care homes, the care worker employing agencies making the contract to supply the care workers. So there are three parties there involved. And there is no consideration made of the say of the person being cared for. Say on the part of the people who are related to that person, the family, children, offspring, whatever. So the whole care industry is careless, and care is lost in the process. And the process is about making money, layers and layers and layers of industry, participants, businesses that are involved, engaged. And that nursing home, which is called Clifton in the Guardian story, is one of those that is actually robbing the public, the council. And there is no authority, no agency, no source that is saying to any of these people, hold on a minute, let's look at this particular case. What care is being provided, under what contract, what agreement, and under what assessment of what needs. This doesn't happen. And this was most notoriously brought into the focus during the 2020 COVID pandemic that spread across the United Kingdom. The largest number of people that died of COVID in the first wave were people who were living in care homes. And further corruption came to light after it became clear that the conservative government, which is what has been in power in the United Kingdom since May 2010, the conservative government gave industrial contracts worth about 8-9 billion pounds, which is a lot of money by any calculation, any measure. About 8 or 9 billion pounds, allegedly, supposedly, for these contractors to provide medical supplies like personal protective equipment, PPE, and the face coverings, which billions of face covers have been produced. But it has become clear that many of the items that were contracted for or provided were not used, never used, which meant that about 7 or 8 billion pounds went into the pockets of the bogus providers. The only protection that was available and was delivered was the protection against their losing the thieving money, millions and millions, billions and billions. So you can see that the Guardian story today about the Clifton nursing home boss stealing 21 million pounds is not only not even a tip of the iceberg, it is not even worth mentioning in the sea of robbery and theft and murderous negligence. Because if there were genuine care provided to those residents in the care homes, then about 5% of them, the 5% of the casualties, the victims who died, would have had to die. But the care is not available. The care is paid for. It's not like lack of money. The care is paid for in advance by the contracting councils or the relations. But the care is paid for, that is guaranteed. But the care is not provided. That is not guaranteed. That is guaranteed in the kind of contract documents, but it is not guaranteed in reality. Now go to the next stage and see that most of the people who have to be in care homes, most of them, not all of them, lack what is called capacity, like I'm speaking here. Most of these people cannot be doing this kind of broadcast or conversation. So those who cannot do that are called lacking capacity. So when they are there and lacking capacity, their capacity is spoken for or is taken over by the people who are in the care homes. So what happens? When they make a statement on behalf of somebody whose capacity is lacking and they are speaking on behalf of the person lacking capacity, they can say anything except the truth. They can put glowing accounts praising the care home, their employer, and in the process, the actual needs and the severity of the needs of the person being spoken about and the person lacking the capacity, these are left unattended. Thus, the person is made more vulnerable and more ill and more sick. This is what happened in the majority of the cases. So, Contrary to Imran Khan's image of Britain having the rule of law, with the murders, this is what we call the massacre of the people in the care homes, massacre by the care industry. This is now being kind of treated as a football. That is to say, everyone is saying, I'm not responsible, we're not responsible, somebody else is responsible. So the House of Commons is devoid of power because it is devoid of the will to demand investigation and the extracting, the establishment, the identification of the truth. Because on the side of the Conservatives, most of the MPs would not want to sing the boat, would not want to rock the boat. Because if they told the truth, if they extracted the truth, then the Conservative government would collapse. So they don't want to do that. And the Labour Party, while in opposition, they are of course in demanding the truth about what happened with the contracts, what happened to the people who died in such a large number. But they haven't got the votes, the number of votes needed to overturn any Conservative decision or motion. The Conservative got a rock solid majority in the House of Commons, which is where democratic part of the British democracy operates. They've got a majority of 80 plus MPs, which is a lot of MPs, lot of votes. Now, you extrapolate that kind of equation or lack of equation and apply the lack of accountability to the behavior of the local councils. When, for example, a council like Newham, let's say, makes an agreement with the care worker agency, what does it do? It makes an agreement on a daily basis or hourly basis, say, with the care worker provider company. That company has got an agreement, let's say, to provide 20 care worker to a local council every week. But it is not done by assessing the needs of the person or personnel whose care is supposed to be at the center of the contract. So the council don't even discuss with the person concerned what kind of care they need. It's like a mechanical, robotic allocation of hours. It doesn't matter what the hours are for or whether these hours are suitable to meet the needs, the actual real needs of the people in whose names the contracts are being made. So, regardless of whether the contracts are actually realized, delivered, the contracts made are paid for by the council. So much so that even when the person in whose name the contracts are made objects to the particular claim that a care worker is available and they don't need that care worker or that uncertain, ill-defined, ill-described or undescribed service, the care contract is still continued. So if this happens, say over 30 days, and the person objects to any care worker being sent to them, the council continues the business as normal and it pays the care worker providing company. So if the care is worth, say, £100 an hour, you multiply that into any number of hours that the contract allegedly covers. and it is thousands of pounds per resident who is supposed to be cared for but is not being in receipt of the care. Thousands of pounds are being paid to the care company by the council. So you go to the council and say that this is what is happening. You must stop it. The council doesn't stop it. This has been happening in the case of London Borough of Newham, evidence of which we have in our possession. And the elected executive mayor, Roxana Fias, is in receipt of all the information, but she couldn't care less. She is careless. So these corruption and criminality are not being covered in the Guardian by implication or by any reference whatsoever in the story that it has run about the Clifton nursing service boss pocketing 21 million pounds. We shall be continuing these and expanding on these and updating on these in later editions, whether today or tomorrow.